Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Helena,
And I'm Kelly.
and we are Speaker Insight, where we help speakers, authors, and coaches to build a portfolio business on your terms. We're also the founders of the Facebook group, the Connection Hub. So you might be watching us in there, or you might actually be on the Speaker Insight Facebook page and watching this. And if you're watching this on the replay, please let us know that as well. But you might actually know that we're the founders of this Facebook group called the Connection Hub, where we've got over 10,000 speakers, members who are really looking at the speaking opportunities. They're connecting with professionals like speaker agents or publishers, web designers, whatever they need to really run their business. And they're really in there supporting and helping their peers to really build a business, what we call on your terms.
So we go live every Tuesday at 1 o'clock. That's BST time. And many of you we know are watching from around the world, and you watch us on the replay as well. So if you're watching on the replay, please press hashtag replay. And we basically answer all of your questions. Just tag us, even if you're watching later on. But we'd love to know where you're watching from around the world. So whether you're
Yes,
watching
please.
live or you're watching around the world, please tell us the country, the city, wherever you're joining us from, because we love a bit of interaction and we love to know a little bit more about our audience.
Which is a really good thing. And today, in front of our audience, you'll see that sometimes we do this together and just inform you about things. And sometimes we bring in one of our experts. And the conversations that we've been having recently have been all around this whole, well, what else can I do in my business? And the app word keeps coming up. So we thought, well, who do we know that just knows an awful lot about apps, but also understands people? So Dave Niss has joined us. And, we are very excited to ask him some questions on your behalf that allow you to even get thinking about that app that you might have at the back of your head and or even at the forefront. Who knows?
But before we get into talking to Dave, because we know we'll go down a big rabbit hole quite quickly, we want to, as people are joining us, as I say hi, but we want to kick off with asking you a little bit about what's happening in your business at the moment. We really encourage you to share what the buzz is in your business so that you become really interesting. It starts a conversation with people and people know what you're about. We know it's very British to people to say what you're doing. Everyone goes, oh, it's all fine in my business, but there's no context.
Yeah.
So we want to know, what's the buzz in your business?
So we're obviously we would love to share some buzz whilst you're busy tapping away or typing away. We are quite excited because not only do we get to be together and do some social stuff, but we are actually having a photo shoot with the wonderful Amanda Clark this weekend. And we're just really excited to be updating. There is something about, sort of, we were saying just before this call that everybody knows this date. If I was to ask any one of you, when is your haircut booked for, pretty much everyone in the UK will be able to tell you it is the most known date that's going. But we, on a serious note, sort of it's probably been a good year and a half since you've looked at your website. Do you look different? Have you changed? Are you doing something different? Have you switched? Is everything working for you? Tyler, that's just rude.
I put on a few pounds, okay?
But there's something about reflecting who you be, who you are, and how you show up in the world. So as well as your haircut, have you got your photo shoot booked?
Yeah. Get a nice new photo shoot booked in, so you never know when we're going to go back into lockdown. You don't want it to be another year. That's exactly what we're doing with Amanda.
Hush now. So Dave, what's the buzz in your business?
Oh, it's going really well, actually, despite lockdown, which was obviously, I think, a bit of a shock. But I had some very interesting clients. What can I share? So one of the clients I've got is typical of the clients I really like. Someone who's gone back into full-time employment, a guy who had his own software business, sold the software business, and then did what he wanted to do, was fund himself through law school, and is actually working for the Ministry of Justice.
Wow.
He's a really good friend of mine, and he's just got bored a bit, got some ideas of some apps and things, but he's a bit it was 8 years ago he sold his company. So I'm doing the first bit of setting everything up, getting everything done in terms of modern websites and things, and building a prototype, which we'll talk about more later, so that he can then take his ideas around. Because if he was to do it himself, it would just take an age. It's a bit like, you get a decorator in. When I used to do DIY painting, my wife would say to me, "Why haven't you done anything this weekend?" Well, I didn't really know what I was doing, and I hated it. So of course, you'd have endless cups of tea, because that's what tradespeople do. That you have to drink tea and biscuits. So that's really good, and it's an interesting combination. So I can get him up to speed and get him going, so he's got some stuff to copy. And I've also found a modern course which takes you from zero to being an app developer in 4 months. So wow. I've taken him, so he's going to do that. I signed up the course, so I know he's been taught. I can then transition him. So in 2 or 3 months, we can do a bit together, where he can do a bit, and if he gets stuck.
That's amazing.
It's like an apprenticeship for him. He gets
his stuff really cool.
And learns how to do it at the same time. I love it.
Exactly. And I think that's an interesting thing when you were talking about there's various different ways you can do the apps. If you're really interested, you can learn a bit about tech, because there are an awful lot of trainers out there. We mustn't forget that we can learn as well as teach other people.
Sure.
And there's lots of different people. I mean, this guy that I know, I've come across him, he's an Italian. He's not on anything, but he does launch this course once a year. It's the sort of thing we do. He gets 800 people sign up for it. He does it for 4 months, and the rest of the year he just coding and whatever he does, drive around in a van. So it's
I like that life.
It's amazing, isn't it, what you can do with the internet and customize your business when you flexibility. So
I think knowing our audience as well, Dave, most of them would like run a mile when it comes to tech, right? So having, when they're thinking about building their own websites and things, and when we put them in touch with people that actually have templated websites, they go, oh, it's actually quite easy. It's quite drag and droppy, and there's no coding, and I can just change the color scheme. And I think actually the app world has come on leaps and bounds in the last decade, right? And so I think what this live will do for people is actually demystify how easy it is for people, but also the process you're going to take people through is going to really help them understand the creation process, because it's literally Swahili language for a lot of people.
and when you demystify, there are so many options. I mean, money used to be money and expertise 10 years ago, 20 years ago, or 40 odd years when I first started. It was a huge thing. There was only a select few people involved in it, and there's a lot of costly. There's a lot of templates out there to get you started, and there are also need to decide whether I'm going to, like I would say, go and buy clothes off the peg, or actually I need something custom made, or am I going to do haute couture or whatever. And my skill is very much when, like, again, the analogy I say, if you're building a house, if you want a dream house and you want an architect, that's fine. If you just want a bricklayer to build a brick, a brick wall, and you know where it's going, then that's not me, because I'll be too expensive in that sort of sense.
And that's actually the bit. So I just want to take it back a little bit, because we've gone in as if we're old friends and we're just having a chit chat. I do actually want to just backtrack a little bit and say why we've got you in. So I do want to ask you it's obvious that you're involved in technology in some way, but Dave, who are you and what do you actually do? Like, because you've labelled yourself.
I hate that question, because
I know you hate that.
I do so much, and then people say, my coach is always saying, but I would say
that's why I want you to say it, because you are a beautiful anomaly in this world, and that's why we're putting you in front of.
So I would say, okay, my life really falls into two parts. One is where people want me for my technical skills, and they'll come and shop and say I'm an expert. So that could be from, like the guy I just talked about who says understand tech, or I'm doing some work for an e-learning company who had a major investment in a tech platform, and it's all gone wrong. So I've gone in to advise and coach the business leaders, plus also the offshore team in their mediating to shape it and bring it back on stream. And that came out of time about a year ago. So that's kept me going through the whole period. So I understand that whole process. So if you say, where did I come from traditionally, I would say from 35, 40 years, I was in the professional software business, building complex systems, really geeky guy in my 20s, didn't want to talk to people. Users were boring and annoying, just let me get on. If you went, how technical, at one stage of my life in the 80s, I worked for a company that made aircraft simulators. So we were engineers building stuff. And I had one amazing conversation with a test pilot for Boeing who came over and explained to me what a weather radar system was. And then I had to go away and build it and make it from scratch.
Wow!
In order to train pilots, that was it. And my claim to fame was that you'll love this as someone who's leading people. So at one point, this is state-of-the-art technology. We don't know what we're doing. We're making it up. It's new. And I got this piece of hardware and it wasn't working, or my software wouldn't work, and it got later and later. And then my boss told me I was on the critical path, and if I didn't pull my finger out, then Boeing would not be able to sell aircraft because they couldn't sell the trainers. So that's a little speech one of my bosses gave me to sort it out. Yeah. So.
But one of the things about you, Dave, is that, and this is, you know, we know we've known you for a long time, and you know, in various different guises and hats. But is that now? I know you said before you were completely geeky and didn't have any human interaction. You're one of the people now that when we send people to you, you actually understand human speak as well as tech speak, and you can cross that bridge, right? Because most people who are brilliant at the technology side of things, they can't relate to what they don't understand the concepts or how that person's
the real
work
world
or business is developing. And you know, that's beautiful about you, that you are a great blend.
And I think it's like everything's come together for my skill set. So when I first started 50 years ago, I would never have thought tech is actually so instrumental. It's like software is so important, but very few people understand it, and a lot of people are fearful of it. And if you look at an organization, you have to understand tech and what it does for people. And too much tech is clunky, gets in the way, and there aren't enough technical people who understand business dynamics. Now, I was just like a fluke of nature that 12 years ago, after a couple of bouts of redundancies, I thought I'd do some freelancing, and I stumbled into coaching, which was like, it's like taking drugs, isn't it? It's like, what? I can do what? Really?
Brilliant.
It's like, really? How does that work? That's like, and then, And what really transformed me is at the time, my girls were young, and I thought, well, this is crazy. Why has no one told me this? I'm 50. Why has no one? I got quite angry. Then I thought, okay, well, I'll go after young professionals. Then I thought, oh, what about school? So 8-9 years ago, I worked for 4 years teaching competence to children. And I've told you that story. So there aren't many technical people who are skilled enough, one, to get a job in primary school, and to turn up and teach 28-year-olds NLP techniques. And I just loved it. I did it for 4 years. But it also changed me, because I realized that if you're talking to young children, you have to engage in their hearts and minds, the non-verbals. So I then went into business, having just taught classes, and I was going, oh, this is interesting. There's lots of stuff going on in this meeting that I hadn't seen before. So you engage in the non-verbal, and then you start getting these wonderful conversations with people. They say, well, actually, Dave, could you do this with tech? And you go, yeah, of course you can. And then you're away, because those people are not brave enough with the tech, because they're just struggling to say, because there is this, I think that people who think intuitively don't like tech, because traditionally tech people want you to fit your ideas into a box. Whereas I think the other way around. Yeah, I think there's there's lots of scope for people who are intuitive thinkers who come up with innovative ideas to then blend with tech. But you need people like myself who are totally skilled, can build anything, to sit down and almost co-create that whole process, and then take it to market, so we can find customers who are willing to buy something radically different. Because that's the other flip side. That
it is.
Yeah.
It's like,
and we're going to come on to that, because the community aspect is actually one of the things that you're really passionate about, but that also makes a lot of the way that you work quite unique. So we'll come to that. But for those people we've had some comments on the post that we've had across the group at the moment going, oh my God, I'd love to have an app, but actually maybe not yet. It's too early on, or this is like the last thing I might be thinking of.
Yeah.
Knowing our market, Dave, of speakers, authors and coaches, why do you think people should be considering an app? What could it do for them or their business? And also, I know that you've got a very specific 5-step process that you take people through in order to discover this. Could you cover that?
Elaborate a little bit, because, you know, we love a process and we love to help people think in a process-led way. Structure is good.
So I think there's a number of ways that tech can do. Obviously, tech can digitize part of your process, so therefore that means that gives you another way of engaging with people. But there's another side, which is tech can help people through a process, and then you can have a checkpoint. So I'm a great believer in the blended part, and sensibly using technology to make sure whether people are failing. you know, so that we know that a big part in working in teams or learning things or doing things is that when I'm on my own, I'm no good, but I won't necessarily admit to what I'm doing and so forth. So some way that technology can help you understand and engage with people in a different way. Technology can also bring things to life in a 3D way. So a lot of time when people, I believe, mistake is they say, well, here's a paper form, can you digitize this? And I say, well, of course I can, but you're missing a point of exploring the medium. And I go back to your point, that people are worried about that exploration because of the fear aspect. There's a simple bit you could go, well, I'll use an existing platform that does training and I can get my content out there. Maybe you can then scale it and get some more money in, and then use that money to invest in something else, which takes your business into a different place that you can do with that technology, you know.
So I know one of the clients that we refer to, this is sort of one of the things that you're doing, is as initially they've actually built like a membership site that is their platform, but that means that later on they could have an app that goes with that helps them go through that membership platform. It could be accountability, it could be connection, but you're saying this blended hybrid approach, whether that's a group coaching program in person, whether that's, you know, an event that they've been through and the app follows them on afterwards to implement the learning from that. That's what you're talking about, is the sweet spot, isn't it?
Yeah, very much. I think you have to think in terms of human connection. So it's almost like the digital person does something for you and then you come back to them and it helps them. So so one of the things that we've done with, I think, with the person what we're working for, is they came up with this interesting diagram and they said, can you do it? And it's like, it's taken them a while to do some interactive graphics, but it's completely different from scoring. You can see some colors and feedback, and therefore you're getting a rich sensory. It's not just like a 2D type of thing, and therefore that's what we're doing. You know, there's so much more you can do. There's some people doing virtual reality and things like that that can be brought into.
And that's so I just want to interject here. If anyone watching is actually thinking that we're just talking about the things that sit on your phone, we're not necessarily thinking about that at all, are we, Dave?
No. I mean, if you take, for example, so a very simple example of connection. So my daughter, she won't mind me saying, uses an Apple phone, and it's just this strange expression of completing the rings, which I had to ask her about. Where there's
I haven't got my watch on, but yeah, I've got my Apple Watch. I'm constantly having to stand every hour in order to get my rings.
And you know, did you have a good day? Yes, I completed my rings. What's that, you know, what's that mean? And then I understand it. But then if you're hooked with someone else, you can say she was going, oh, my friend's ahead of me, so it motivates them to get up and do things.
My daughter with strikes on TikTok or Snap or one of them, I don't know.
yeah. So technology there is by giving you that feedback, you know, and we will get that in terms of wearable clothing and other things. But the key thing is to inventively, people who understand the human connection, to make sure that it's done in a delicate way, that we don't crush people in that sense, but it's actually part of this extension, like this wonderful technology we're having here. I mean, where could we have had this before, this discussion? It would have cost us a lot of money, and here this is for a fraction of the money that you would have had, you know, when I first came across conferencing, and I made the mistake of thinking there was no one there, but I hadn't switched just the TV on, so the monitor was there. And they all noticed, and they were keeping quiet until they all burst out laughing. And there was a secret panel, but there's an element, and just bringing that together. So one of the other projects I'm involved is more what we've looked at, local business, if you like, and actually to come up with a collaborative platform for local business, rather than, okay, I can do my own app, you could do your own app, but that doesn't help us because my customers are not, or on your app, they're not on my app. So my client I've been working with for the last 2 or 3 years has come up with a platform that everybody has their own mini app. So if you're in a local business, you would go on this platform. That means that my client customers, it makes it easy for me to refer to you because you're another local business. So what we're trying to do is almost digitize word of mouth in a local environment, and that's just come.
And isn't that like very beautiful? It's the fact that normally that would happen when someone would walk down a high street and they see the butchers and the hairdressers, but because so many people are now spread out, you might still be in that 1 mile radius, but in working from home as an osteopath rather than the high street, this app is like bringing them all together and having like a virtual high street on your phone. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And then you could say to me, well, what's your favorite local shops? And I go here, and you scan my QR code and you get all of them on your phone, and you can instantly do some orders. And that's just going back to what I've noticed in business. Everyone is after new customers, but the big thing in business to be profitable, sustainable, is to look after existing customers and make them reorder.
That's right.
What they've had already. So again, a lot of apps don't look like that. They're just like a general e-commerce, rather than saying what makes sense. How does it make it for one local business to refer to another?
Nice.
And it's not been easy, because a lot of people don't understand that being in a high street is really a marketing strategy. Because but they pay. I don't do marketing. I'm in the high street. No, it's a marketing strategy. And then you go to people. No one's coming down the high street, so your marketing strategy is not working. What do you mean?
Exactly.
And then you have to. Then you realise that actually, okay, can we give you another marketing strategy, which is e-commerce? No, I don't understand. That's tech. So there's a lot of fear and anxiety, because what works once doesn't work again. And I think this is
or it's translatable, sort of, it's actually going, well, hang on a minute, how do I take the concept of that? I want to be seen, and actually walking down the high street is that way. So how do I create a virtual high street that has more of the same in it? And it always comes down to, well, what is the thing that we're trying to create here, more than the direct replication of something? And that's where you come
and that's where you, I think, what's interesting, come back to what you said, Kelly, is if you understand the fundamentals of people, connections, and business, it's impossible for you to create a solution that doesn't work, because you break everything down to the fundamentals and you build it back up again. The problem with buying off the shelf is it's bought in one lump and you don't understand the principles. So if I go and buy an existing shop and it works on the high street, it's great, but I don't know marketing and everything else in its raw principles. And I think my own belief is, in local business, the reasons it's failed, it's been too easy to get into, and nobody's spent time understanding the principles of how it works. I'm sort of what I call accidentally successful. Hope people aren't offended by that. Then when things go wrong, the marketplace changes. I don't know how to recreate the ingredients. But again, a lot of this is trial and error. So we've been out in the market talking for a couple of years about this, and we've got some interest. But most people, like coaches, they need a reason for change. The true is for an app. So one of the interesting things when you're creating an app, it's new. People go, I love it. And then you say, give me some money, and go, well, maybe. And then they buy the app and they leave it on the shelf, which is no good, because you don't get a recommendation. Yeah. So we had this problem, and then we found out, and just to share a story again, going back to in Canada, there was a thing called a Not Amazon website, which came around last Christmas time, where someone local got fed up with everyone at the beginning of the lockdown, everyone going to Amazon. Great, no problem with that, because it's a great site. But actually, what happens to the locals? So they said, well, this is crazy. I'm going to just they put it on Instagram, a list of all these local, and they called it Not Amazon. Then it went onto the website, and it just got a lot of publicity.
I shared that website before Christmas last year, I remember.
Well, here's the thing. So we borrowed that idea, and we've just launched Not Amazon for the UK and some European cities as a way of giving people a free directory listing. So as we come out of lockdown, everyone can share, look, don't forget, there's still these local places that I'm passionate about that you can go along. So that's coming up.
We need to be telling people like Nikki about that with Lost Lockdown. We'll try and go in this afterwards. Yeah, definitely.
so that's, for me, that's an interesting thing of how you also go bigger and look after the community rather than just yourself. So how can we look after local business? Not just something that suits one, but how can you collaborate? And I think that's one of the interesting things of tech platforms.
Yeah. And that's when people then everyone starts, I mean, this is the same, and I haven't got my Apple Watch on, but when you've got Apple users and you've got the walkie-talkie, and because it's the human behavior and because more people are doing it, then you just go and start using it anyway, because you FOMO, but also it's a way of engaging. So having something which actually works is really important.
Yeah, because
fundamentally we want to belong, don't we?
Yeah,
absolutely. And if you go like this, if you say, okay, everyone looks after themselves, great. Okay, everyone has their own app because I teach you how to do that. That's a nightmare for the consumer. Who wants
Millions.
one app
That's
on?
right.
Because essentially it's just like going around your high street, isn't it? I want to whatever. So we've got, there are later versions where we will actually make like a local department store where you can trot around 4 or 5 different shops and pay with one payment, and then it all gets delivered. That's what we're aiming for, but it's again early steps, so we're just getting going with that.
So what I love about that, and this might be where to kind of bring in the process of thinking that you got. What I love about that is that you take the time as an app architect. You take the time to actually go, and what else is possible, and what else is possible, and what else might we like this to do? So that's a very different thing from, as you say, that 2D kind of digitize this for me type of approach.
Absolutely, and that's where I realized when I was talking through the process. I mean, one of the interesting things that I think it was 4 or 5 years ago when I was having loads of conversations with people, but no one was buying from me, and then I sat down and a sort of voice from a mentor said, you need to make it simple for people to buy from you. And so I can tell all this story because it makes sense to me, and you'll know this as well. But when your customer goes away in the cold light of day and they say to their partner, so tell me, how does it work? And they go, blah, 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 blah. And they ask all hard questions and they go, oh, and the phone never rings. So that's when I thought, okay, I've got to come up with this 5 steps to explain to people what I know intuitively. And as experts, we all know this stuff intuitively, but we have to put it into smaller boxes so that the novice gets confidence in us as experts. There's that transition.
And the pathway is clear for them as well, and they understand that. So it's great. Tell us what those steps are, Dave.
Yes, please.
So the first step is called what is the value? So what that is going out and talk to the customers. And one of the interesting things is that I learned this from a good friend of mine who has a workshop called the Challenge of Value, is when people say, yeah, I deliver value. And you go, well, what value? And then very few people can really articulate it. What is the currency of value? So this first step is to be brave and take out your ill-formed idea, go out to people and explain to them, and get them excited. And it's almost like, can you create another vision for their business with your app in it? And they'll go, oh, wow. And then you go, well, what else would you like it to? Well, if you're doing that, could you do this? And you go, okay, well, but curious, well, can you tell me what value that would do? What would that do? So you're now playing in their world, not the world that I'm in. And people come up with some wonderful ideas. And you go, oh, actually, that's easier to implement than what I was thinking. And is that a value? Yeah, you can do this, this, and this. So now I've gone to 1 or 2 customers and I've got their view of value, not my view of value. And I can go back and say, oh, that's interesting. And one of the things you can do is I learned this from a guy in the States. There's an acronym called MEVO, which is minimum economic viable offer. So what's the smallest thing I could sell you that delivers value?
MVP,
MVP.
Yeah, so it comes before the minimal viable product, because what you're dealing with, you're only dealing with value, whereas product concentrates on features. So what's the smallest unit of value that you can be bothered to actually give me money for? That's what you're trying to say. And you're trying to, so what you really want to do is at the end of the value bit is to go, okay, I can create this value. I know what it is financially. Therefore, I know how much I could charge. Because if there's a differential of at least 10 to 1, you can construct a story where people will buy from you.
That's great.
And that's the first step. And that could take a long time to get through. But the key thing that I say to people, when you know that, later on when you want to get funding for everyone, that's like gold dust. You will be able to articulate it to the money man exactly how your customer thinks, what the value is. And they'll go, so this customer told me it was a no-brainer to give me £100 a month subscription, whereas you were only thinking £10 because you were nervous about charging. You now know exactly what value you can deliver and have a rough idea how to do things.
And I think that whether you call it market research, co-creation, collaborations, whatever it is the bit that most people, whether it's an app or whether it's a course or whether it's a program or whether it's a book, most people don't do that step. Because they go, I know what they need. And actually, you do know what they need, but it might not be what they want. And it might not be in the level of detail that they want or the price point they want or the format.
Or it might not be at the right stage of where they're wanting it and all of that.
Absolutely. And the other thing I would say that I think there is also that we have this tribal thing. We have a fear of really engaging with people who are not of our type. So I've got to go out to a customer and be very vulnerable, ask stupid questions, get it wrong, reject, all that sort of stuff. Anyway, so that's step one. So step two is about where's the profit. So step two is then, okay, I'm going to build a business. I'm going to charge this pricing. Imagine I'm super successful. What people would I need in my business? Where were the suppliers? What support service? And invariably, I learned this when I first in business, because my accountant, I was talking about him. I think at the stage I was charging me as a web developer, say $350 a day. And he very quickly showed me that if I carried on that way, there would be no profit left over once I grow my business to pay for the overheads and everything else like that. So, so you go, oh. So step two is, can I make enough profit with all the people and delegating it and have VAs to do this and do that? Because so
scale it out, not
scaling
where it is now, but scale it out where you want it to be.
Can I make profit and scale? And quite often I think you'll come and go, oh, no, I can't. I'll have to charge 50% more or something. In which case you go back to step one and dig for more value.
Completely.
You know, and sometimes you might go, oh, well, is there another market? Is there another niche that would actually pay that money? You know, classic. There's always another niche.
And isn't it beautiful to learn that before you've built the product?
Absolutely. So I the first person who took this off me was someone who came to me because he was about to spend £100,000 going straight into the build stage. And he thought, great, I'm going to go nearshore, which is maybe Poland or places like that. Very competent people, get more for your money. But if you're doing that, you also have to know. It's like you have to know what you're doing if you're going to use builds like that.
You have to know what you want.
So I told him this process, and he goes, right, okay. He then spent some money with me, and I taught him how I would go out with sketching. So another thing I do is you learn to sketch ideas in front of people rather than show them a PowerPoint, and it evolves the idea with them, and you can take them on a journey rather than just saying, well, as my picture.
But when you say sketching,
literally
we're
drawing,
right?
You're talking about, you know, Helena doing the, you know, piece of paper and whatever.
I'm thinking like flow diagrams more than that lovely whiteboard animation where everything looks pretty. And stickmen is probably my limit of drawing and sketching.
No, it's probably a real messy thing, right?
Anything like that, but stickmen. So I'm not very good at drawing, but what I do is when I get a finished diagram, I will spend it in an evening just drawing it, borrowing a technique my daughter did, just tracing it until I know how to do it off by hand. Then I recreate that diagram in front of people, but it is stick people and it's really crude. And people don't mind because you're telling the story and it engages them. And I think, it's much better than PowerPointing because at a certain point you can get engagement. People say, and that's what you want. You want to know that people can understand your story in that sense. Yeah, because
with a PowerPoint, you can't say, actually, that wouldn't be the second step. I scrub that out. I'm going to write this one in. You can't do that on PowerPoint.
No, that's right. You can adapt it. People might say, what about this? And you could draw the diagram. And then suddenly think, oh, that's a better diagram than before.
Yeah.
So just as an aside, we took this to an extreme. So I've got, as you would expect, a platform idea that I'm working on in the background. And 3 years ago, we took a stand at the business show, and people thought we were nuts. And I had a whole load of cartoons that I got my daughter to draw, which was up on the wall here. And I walked everyone through it. And that's what the Mevo is. It's just cartoons. It's like I'm going to buy a house, and it's an artistic impression, and it's all artistic.
Yeah.
But people can go, wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I really like it, or I don't get it. But it's a good test that your vision, someone will give you money for, before the expensive bit of actually committing to do it.
And isn't that really important for the people that aren't tech orientated, because the vision will bring it to life for them rather than someone talking through, well, this will be the next screen, this will be the sub menu, this when they're like, what you want about? I don't understand.
They lose you. They lose you.
So for example, one of the clients one of my favorite clients, Gavin, who again has done this part-time, he had a passion for crosswords. And we had a chat and I met him networking, and he loved this idea of team crosswords. So effectively, if we were in a team, every Tuesday and Thursday evening, he publishes a crossword. And then if we were on a team, we would see a third of the clues each. So you fill it out, and as I answer it, comes in yours. So I built this, and he had this idea, and I said, okay, we're going to test it. He said, oh, it's not, you know, it might break. I said, no, we're going to test it anyway. And I was thinking, yeah, it'll fall over, but I'll deal with that anyway. Because we need some real users. So we did that, and we had some technical problems. And then the next day when he was talking to his wife, she was saying, yeah, but I didn't quite understand this. Can you give me some more hints? And he suddenly went, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. So we completely redesigned an extra bit on top of it, which gives you a hint when you're going through in a certain style to understand cryptic crosswords.
Nice.
Now, he didn't imagine that at all. That came from the first impact with a customer who said, oh, it's too difficult. I didn't really understand what I was doing. He slept on it overnight and suddenly thought, oh, maybe we can adapt this. Then I come in and say, and then we try it out over 3 or 4 sessions, so that it's really not, is it a technical problem? Of course there's technical problems. It's, does your imagination fit what?
Yeah, and it's iterative. You know, there's a direct feedback mechanism, but there's also an honoring, you know, and this is one of the things we really love about having you in our world. There's an honoring of the human process in the user element that actually goes in there, you know, sort of, so nobody wants to feel stupid. And like cryptic crosswords, I'm right there. I'm like, oh, I don't want to feel stupid, but a hint would kind of help me still feel like I was part of that team and belonging and still contributing in some way as well, which is interesting.
But that step that I just want to highlight, Carolyn's actually quite annoyed now because you've actually just said one of your favourite clients, and we know that Carolyn is one of your clients, and so she's now saying, well, hang on a minute, what about me?
Yeah, exactly. It's like
when you have that, I would call that a prototype, what you were talking about with that, with the crosswords. In that step process, so the first process is to do the market research. The second step is to basically work out, is it going to be profitable? Can it scale? Yeah. When does the prototype come into play?
Well, that's interesting. I would say that we are still at step 1. So because the client, so the client is using it, although he thinks we're running for real. Because I said to him, what is the value to your customers? He said, I don't know. So he may think that we built a working system, but in terms of the 5 steps, we're really at step 1, trying to understand the value and where I can go to the marketplace.
So my question around that then, sorry, Dave, is just more about, well, how much investment does that take to do the prototype before you know it's going to be viable?
Really good question. I would say it depends on your courage to get it wrong. So when I'm prototyping, I do it really rapidly and it's fraying at the edges, but I've just prototyped the one bit that I want to be sure. There's no login, there's nothing else. I will put the context. I say, okay, this is this. Now imagine you've got this, and I just show them something which is like, it's kind of works. And all I'm doing is going, oh my God, you know? So for example, my dad's nearly 90 and he can't play cards anymore. So I'm building this game that we can play some of the family game cards to him. And he's going, what's this about? So I said, these cards, can you see them? And I'm showing them on the iPad and whatever. And then I'm just talking through and suddenly gets it. Oh, so we can all play this together to games. So we can have family time together on Zoom. Great, love it. When can you have it ready? So in that moment, I've sold him the idea. But up until then, it's what is this? I don't understand. So now I've got that.
Maybe that's like about 30% cost of the whole build because you're just showing some features and some...
It should be as minimal as possible because it could be that you're going to throw it away. It could be that in that conversation, and you'll understand this as coaches, you need to go open that you are wrong. If I go in saying, do you like this? People go, well, yeah, you've got to put it in a way that people say, I hate it, Dave. Why can't you do this? Or, you know, is there something else you can do? So this is the art of co-creation, which again, so many in the tech world have been trained to only implement what they've been given in a spec. So the business is very good. Historically, the business has been very good at bullying the tech world into doing exactly what they want. And then because they had the wrong idea, blaming the tech people.
It didn't work.
Because...
And unfortunately, the tech people didn't have the comeback to actually go, hang on a minute, we understand people and we didn't actually challenge you at the right point. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, or that doesn't make sense. Can I just check with you? Or no, that can't be done. Or that doesn't make sense in the business world. What about it? Because So there's lots of scope that I've discovered to this blend of people skills. And if, bizarrely, before I became a coach, even back in the 90s when I was a project manager and I had my own department, I always knew there were no such thing as tech problems. There are only people problems. It's like,
sure.
So keep people on track, Dave, just because I'm holding them. So market research, the value of it, is that testing and profitability and scale.
And then the third step is, what's the story? So now that you know the price and you've talked to someone, you've got a rough idea of the value, and that's come out in a long conversation, you then have to go away and go, okay, I'm going to wander up to someone and say within a very short period of time what my story is and get a sale. So I'm all that research and everything, can I put together in a little script that I can deliver? And I've met Kelly and everything is okay. And in 5 minutes, she's, that's fantastic. Well, I'll have some ready in 3 months' time. Do you want to pre-order some to be the select few? And if you can get money at that stage, you know that everything is fitting in place. Then you go to step 4, which is build it, because you've got some pre-orders. And it probably means you're in a good state to get some funding for step 4. Because you've got all this story and you've got some existing customers. And there are 2 times to really go after funding. One is when the story looks good and you've got a little bit of traction and you can paint a really big picture. Because there's always a dip. When you get into reality, there's a bit of dip when you go into the marketplace. And the other place is when you've gone through the dip and you're out the other side, but that takes more money to get to. So if you're brave, you can, all of these steps really is the way of getting other people's money. Then you can solve the funding bit, because everything else is, in business, it's, if you can talk to your customers in their language and give them a product that makes a difference, they're going to find the money.
For sure.
It becomes a no-brainer.
And I know this is going to be like, how long's a piece of string? But I know we get asked it all the time. Is it depending if it's like an Android app or whether it's a cloud-based app system? What are, with all the ones, because you've given us some great examples today of projects that you're involved in and ones that you've done before. But what would be a ballpark figure for an app to be created in whether it's cloud-based or app-based?
Well, I would say that if you could get hold of, say, £15,000, then you can embark on this journey and you've got enough float in there to get hold of other money. Now, it obviously depends. It could be 15 to 25. I would say you would not want to be, it's not 100,000. If you're doing 100,000, you're jumping into what I would call step 4 to build it. There's a way that you can validate the idea. One of my main clients has spent loads of money as it's like way advanced to what most people would do, but there is this whole idea of toe in the water and learn as you go is the best way. But it's scary for most people to explore. Even in normal business, all sorts of content you could encourage people to go out there, and I'm sure you do that on your courses. People want to get it right and they want to do that. So, but it varies through. The other thing I would say with the apps is, there are a lot of app platforms that you can buy stuff ready made, which means it doesn't cost you a lot.
What would they be? Dave, just so we can direct people
just so that there's
Well, there's lots of membership sites that you can go out there, and they're probably numerous. And I think that's when you were talking about what's happened in the marketplace. People have realized that tech is so important because it's the one way you connect with people. If you like, coaching and training community has to go online. So the Zoom, I'm not sure whether StreamYard existed more than a year ago. It's certainly giving everyone a push and that sort of thing.
For sure.
There's some app generators you can get if you're sort of technically savvy, but most people would buy like member space, and there's a few Thinkific and very classical courses type things that you can build some things.
And I know that if we look at things like WordPress and all the plugins, like if you look at BuddyPress, that is a plugin for WordPress that then has got leadership boards of contests, and you run competitions with your members, and that's back on either cloud-based on a desktop, or you can have it on your phone. And these are pretty much, as you said, they're try to fit all the features that a lot of people want, but they're not bespoke to your
and to me
you're shoehorning.
And they're missing the most important bit, which is non-technical, which it doesn't matter how you build step 4, and I haven't talked about it, whether it is a package that you configure, an Excel spreadsheet, a PDF, a combination of emails. You can do it in a very Heath Robinson way until you've actually got some funding. it's step 1, 2, and 3 that I realized that most of the time that's people miss. And it's, do I have the personal skills? You know, and one of the things that I've got going forward is to realize that, point out the training, the skills, and other things to get through these first 3 steps, which will get more people developing apps which make a difference and braver and so forth.
I think when you and I had the initial conversation sort of for this, the scary stat that really kind of sits there for me is this number, you know, sort of like in terms of the opportunity that you're putting in front of people that you hinted at before around this, you know, that whole idea that the number of developers is doubling every 5 years, but
I mean,
the knowledge that goes with that in terms of human design that goes with it, you know, that whole, we're building houses, but we're actually starting to rely less and less on architects and simply allowing builders to actually build it without getting the design first, right?
And, yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a, you know, especially like my dad's older, it's engaged me in a different way in terms of we've only just scratched the surface in terms of tech and what we can do for people. And the reason it's been driven by the tech community who want to make money. What we really want to do, and what I want to do, is flip it on its head and say those people who understand the social problems come and engage with the tech community, and then we can build collaborative platforms, things which connect with people that provide that human connection, which is so important, and we can make a shift.
That's lovely.
You know? Let me ask you a question. My brain's, I know we've only got like 10 minutes left.
I'm sat here going, I know this conversation could go on for a really long time.
Let me just put that out there. For a lot of people, you know, 15, 20K is a lot for a coach to invest in a thing that might not work, right? So I'm just thinking, when you were talking about that virtual high street, and actually it's very much about other people sharing, if you've got the same customer or avatar, that actually if we all come together, we'll start increasing our traffic. But let's say our example of Speaker Insight, where we have 12 partners. They might be publishers, website designers, you know, VA agencies. They're our partners. If all of us put together a couple of grand into a pot to build an app that basically will then help all of our, because this is one of the, and I know this about you, that you will work that app so that it works for all those people. And it is.
And that's it. In like, people don't get collaboration. They don't get, actually, I'm stuck. Have you got, look, do you have this problem? Yes. Okay. Can we just hire a coach and we'll sit in a room and we'll all do it together? We'll chip in £100 a month. And
that's it. And that's what I'm thinking, right? Because if people got together with even their own mastermind groups, whatever it might be that our network might be part of, whether it's their own JVs, their partnerships, their masterminds, their own coaches, and actually wanted to do something collaboratively, then not only will that share the cost, but it will also increase the traffic and the marketing and the flow, because you're all sharing your audiences as well.
Absolutely. And in that sense, and you also get the creative, well, where's the value? So the idea of hunt the value means that you only spend a little bit on strategic discussions and facilitation until you go, well, you know, we're this is like blue sky thinking, isn't it? And then you go, and I would go, like, with all my, I'd say it's not will it work, it's once you engage with a client, they will give you the answer that will give you the money. But you've got to be brave enough to engage with that client, realize that you've only got half an answer. They will go, well, I'll tell you what, and they will give you something they've never told anyone.
Yes.
And that's when you go, hallelujah, actually that's easier than we thought. And then you've got the whole distribution and everyone chips in, and then suddenly you've got some money to invest in a stage 2 product, which is even bigger, and then you stage 3, and that's how you grow together as a community.
And I think there's something to be said for that's all built on relationships. That's all built on partnerships, relationships, getting to know people, because that thing that pops out, which is possibly a dream that's been inside somebody for a really long time, that they think they've had to do on their own. I'm pretty certain every speaker, author, or coach listening to this now or in the future will go, oh yeah, I've got one of those. But it doesn't come out unless you're in a trusted environment where you feel like you are connected to the people and that actively allow you to go, hang on a minute, what if there was more? You know, sort of it's the both and element of, it doesn't have to be just me. Actually, with this crowd of people or with this person, I can be spurred on in some way, and we can make something better.
And yes, exactly. And if I come back to just some simple numbers thing, as I say to people, okay, suppose you had a product that was a £25 subscription, which is not a lot. Yeah.
Sure.
Just imagine we could get to 1,000 people. That's £25,000 every month, every month, every month, every month. You can pay off some sort of debt quite easily. And
Sure.
if you also, rather than go digital, so part of the first step is to go and get customers through networks.
Yeah.
Then you learn a lot. So there's a bit about actually using trusted networks and almost this non-digital way to get your first cohort. It's a lot easier than going digital straight off.
I'm reminded in a slightly different way when Kelly and I very first set up the whole concept that was Speaker Insight. Really, we wanted to test our ideas for the membership, but we did that through running a retreat, which kind of changed the trajectory of the whole of the business anyway. Because, am I allowed to say, Kelly?
Yes, you're allowed to say.
Or you can. I'm more than happy.
That's
It's so sort of like Kelly really was intent on, and I was too, of us running a membership that really supports speakers, authors, and coaches to put the foundations into their business to be able to run it in a really good way. But we're both structure led and market research led people who have, is the intention for what we do, how do we test that? And so we did it through this retreat. But and Kelly is very much an introvert, as many of you may know, and she was like, okay, we'll just do this one, but I don't do events. I just don't do events.
We're never going to run this again, Helena. This is just
never going to run this again.
Project.
Nope. And then somebody at the end of that retreat said, you've changed my life. You've literally changed my life. And I just looked at Kelly and went, can we do more of these?
And that was
the business model changed. Yeah. And the thing is, the business model changed, and that's the point that I'm making, that in that human connection, putting that variable in
and
there,
that research,
and us having the flexibility to go, hang on a minute, this is different.
Absolutely, yeah. And the other thing I would say is people think that the app market is saturated. It's only saturated for the rubbish. It's like if you so I can't so. With one client, I got into a strategic level with Canon. That's how I work the network, right? And I found out that this product would revolutionize their business, right? Now, it then got stuck with the fact that quite often the problem you have with an innovative product with a big organization, you're implementing change, because the thing that when I talk about step 4, where although you build the MVP, you've got to also, will the person use the app and get benefits? So there's a value, but you've got to train the person on how to use the app. And a lot of people don't do that step either. So they sell loads of stuff. No, only 10% of the people take action, because we know that's the case. Therefore, you're not getting the goodwill being generated. If you sit with that problem, solve it so you understand what are the obstacles to people doing what they said they would do, then you can scale quicker. Now, it all really depends on your intent. And I know most of your community are about impact. So sitting a little bit tighter with things, working this puzzle out, it's a human connection problem. I've given you this wonderful pen. Why are you not using it? Why do you still like this fluffy pink pen? That doesn't make sense. Use this pen instead. Those sorts of conversations. Solve that one. Then you can really scale. And that's the bit that a lot of success in business is slow, thoughtful conversations with customers or people who are rushing around to get money and make money quickly. Really, to do things properly, it has to be slow. And come back to the money, you have to have another source of money. And I've been in situations where you have to launch and make the money, or else the whole thing, it's a lot of stress. You need people who are very self-mastered, can do that, and very few people can do that. But that's all part of the game. That's all part of this fun of making business work and changing society. It's not easy.
Which is interesting, because one of the things that we're usually saying to people is don't start with a membership, because actually the membership comes a little bit later on down the
Once you've
line,
got the
because
audience.
that takes a lot more research and thinking and resources in order to actively build it. What were you going to say, Kelly?
Well, there's a couple of things. One thing I want to highlight is I've put your details in the comments as well, Dave, so people can connect with you predominantly on social, because I know your website's going through a bit of a revamp at the moment. But I just want to highlight how you can help people, because obviously you talked about the 5 stages, but I know that when the people that we've referred to got so into their business and understanding what they want to do, that you can help them do the exploration bit. Well, you can help them with each stage, right? Even if it's like getting investment, you've got ideas of where they can go to.
Yeah, and so one of the reasons for the 5-step process was, as you said, to give people clarity. I mean, you can do stage investment. So previously to that, people will say, "Oh, so I need £100,000 budget, but what do I do? I don't know what to do." It's like when you're building your own house. Every house build that I've seen goes off budget, and people are surprised because, So I thought, well, we can stage everyone. So we can say, okay, what's it going to take to do step 1, which is a lot of times is me facilitating people's imagination, sketching out ideas, giving them some rough drawings, and then they go out to the marketplace.
Yeah.
And I basically teach them how I go and test my ideas. So in terms of what is a part of, I call it disruptive selling, where you go out and get people to actually reinvent your bad idea for you. That's the way you've got to do it, if that makes sense. So.
Yeah.
And would you be open for the people that we put your contact details on, if they're interested in exploring working with you, that you just jump on a call with them or whatever it might be?
No, I always have an open call in that sense. We'll chat with people for half an hour to make sure that they fully understand where they're going to. The fact that I'm a good fit, because I'm very much best suited in this architect creating something big with you that you want to invest in it. But I'm part of that. I can be a partnership. I've got some existing commitments. I don't have space for a lot, but I'm up for offers. But one of the things I've suggested to you, if people I would quite happily do some group training. I would, if needs be, we could take a group of people through the 5 steps, if that felt nice for people. I
think we might be getting our Changemaker Central members getting on that soon.
I agree. Because actually, the value's in the thinking.
I'm open to offers, and if just to put people in context a bit. So I used to work for a specialist software company all my life. By the year 2000, I was the project director, operations director. We had a £20 million software portfolio. So I managed the technical excellence, the profitability, and the customer service, and all those came together. So I'm used to building complicated stuff, but what I really like now is working with individuals and this sort of boutique creativity, and to unleash people who are non-techie, to say you can scale your influence through technology if you give it a go.
And we know that you're one of the people, I know some of the projects that you're involved in, that you do like a project that's very much around making a positive impact on the planet, let's put it that way, right? And that's when you start going, oh, let's think really big about this.
That's right.
And that's why you're massively aligned with us, because that's what our Changemaker policy is all about, is how do we make that bigger impact with our message. But also it is about collaboration. It is about joining up with people, because that's where the momentum, the flow, the co-creativity, the compounding effect happens. And so I know that we're an hour up, and I know that many people will be watching this on the replay, and please do tag Dave and us in the comments if you're watching this, however long down the line it might be, because we know apps are sometimes things that come up in your user journey sometime in the future.
That's it.
We would always recommend to go and have a chat with Dave for your first step, whatever you're thinking of doing.
It really is one of those things where hopefully you're learning, or hopefully you're taking away, this would be my wish, that you're taking away that actually slowing down to speed up is the way to go, but to also remember that there are collaborative, creative people who have skills that you don't have, but that marry to yours, that allow the vision and the impact that you've actually got in mind for the local, the regional, the national, the global kind of scenario. It's available.
And I think what's interesting, and I don't know, this might be a bit controversial, I would say that even amongst this community, although we're collaborative, there's still room for people to be brave enough to say, do you want to come? I've got this great idea. Can you help me with do this? I'm not that really inclined, without worrying about the financial bit. And there's an interesting project I can't talk about where someone has been struggling for years, and me and another guy have just said to him, look, I tell you what, we'll give you, we'll just invest you and give you some consultancy because we like what you're doing. We think now that you've got to a point where you say, I really need some help. We've explored various avenues and we'll trust that we can get some money back. So this idea that in all our portfolios, we can have a little bit of, which is really risky, we're putting it out there as paying it forward. We're trusting something will pay back from us when we collaborate and co-create together. So,
which is what we meant by where the human world meets the tech world, which is a very unheard of scenario. But we really appreciate your time. We know we've been at an hour, so you're in the Connection Hub, you're in our world. We really appreciate you. You are a unique being.
You are. Much love coming at you from out in the community as well. So we will see you soon.
All right. Well, thanks for inviting me in. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.